we touched on this the last time I was on this show. Um, we did a bit on Declan Rice, and I think I said on that one, take Man City seriously. Like he would go there if it came to it. Like his priority was always Arsenal. But I'd been told a few days before that Man City were that the interest was real, and that Declan Rice, yeah, would be interested if that was the avenue that he had to go and explore. He's been told he can leave West Ham. He's not going to go back to West Ham. I keep reading West Ham fans being quite optimistic about the Arsenal situation. They're like, oh, we might get another year out of him. That's not going to happen. But what you are going to get here is a situation where Man City, you talked about at the top, losing Gundogan, obviously. So they've replaced him, obviously, in terms of numbers with Kovacic. Kovacic was already coming into Man City. It didn't really matter if Gundogan left or not. Kovacic was going to join Man City. So Gundogan actually leaving Man City means a spot has opened up now in Man City's midfield. And Declan Rice suddenly does become a feasible option for them to go and explore. Man City having the signings of Gvardiol, Kovacic, and Declan Rice for next summer is a pretty scary prospect, but it's also a pretty real prospect as the way that it's opening up right now. This could have been avoided by Arsenal. Arsenal are in the same situation they found themselves in the Premier League. I think we mentioned this last week too. On the Premier League, they had one hand on the trophy. It looked like they might be able to get it, and they let it slip away. Declan Rice, they've had one hand on him for weeks leading into the transfer window, and now he's starting to slip away too. This would be a disaster for Arsenal if Declan Rice actually didn't end up signing for them. He was happy to commit himself to them, but you've now got the treble winners and Pep Guardiola knocking on the door. And the way it was put to me when I spoke to my contact a couple of weeks ago, he said, look, yes, Declan Rice likes Arsenal. Yes, ideally he'd prefer to stay in London. If he has assurances that Pep Guardiola is staying in charge of that team for the next couple of years, that can change his mind. And I think that that's something now to consider, because Pep Guardiola has given assurances recently that he will be seeing out his contract at the Etihad. And if you're Declan Rice, that's a very, very hard thing to ignore.
It absolutely is. And, I was talking on videos. Listen, I understand low balling. I understand not going in with £100 million bid on day one, because you might end up being pushed to pay 120, 130. And that maybe stops other deals that you need in the team. But equally, in videos I spoke about, and I used the big blue shark analogy because Big Steve, that comes on our show, a Man United content creator, he said this on a number of occasions this year. It got to a point where he was having Haaland, after every win in that title race, sending pictures of sharks, if that makes sense. And I said to him, you've got to get out of the water. You've just got to now pay it. And that's what Arsenal have got to do right this second. Rice is on holiday. It doesn't matter. You phone his dad, his agent, and you turn around and say, right, we're putting 100 million plus 100 million plus 5 add-ons in right now for Declan Rice. And we still got your agreement because we're going to go get it accepted now from West Ham. But West Ham have now got what they've wanted. There is a bidding war. And with a bidding war, all bets are off. All bets are off, because at the end of the day, if City outbid Arsenal and Arsenal don't match it, the personal terms become irrelevant. This is what happened with Chelsea. Chelsea made a better financial offer to Shakhtar Donetsk. And it didn't matter that he preferred Arsenal over Chelsea. He wanted his move to the Premier League. And suddenly Shakhtar said, well, we're not going to accept Arsenal's offer. It's not as good as Chelsea's. You put yourself in a predicament, which is why I tweet about deals. I always get stick for saying, how can a deal be on it towards Arsenal and a deal be on at City? Well, because deals are active for multiple clubs. And if the selling club doesn't accept Arsenal's bid, they can't buy the player. And Declan Rice is leaving this summer, as we all know already. So Arsenal, pull your finger out right now.
It appeals West Ham more to sell him to Manchester City. Obviously, not only is there more of a rivalry with Arsenal traditionally, but like you say, they've had 2 offers going now that weren't where they wanted them to be in terms of structure. I think they're getting a little bit agitated by that. But Man City also have a player that West Ham really, really want in Calvin Phillips. And while Calvin Phillips doesn't want to leave Man City, there doesn't seem to be a role opening up for him very obviously in that City squad. And if that's what breaks this deal, I can see it coming onto the table potentially. It's not often that, or really ever, that players are forced out of Man City. But if that's what becomes the deal breaker, then it's going to have to be discussed. I think actually West Ham and Calvin Phillips are a pretty good match. I understand why he wouldn't want to give up on playing for Man City. Absolutely understand that. But if you're now looking at a team that's still got Rodri in it, that's got Kovacic in it, and is going to have Declan Rice in it, what opportunities really is Calvin Phillips going to have going forward? So I think that is another factor that comes into this equation that we have to weigh up, and one that West Ham, it will absolutely appeal to. I know that we're talking about 100 million here all the time in terms of the figure they want Arsenal to get to. But Man City, as I say, have a player that they're interested in. So maybe there's some manoeuvring that could be done around that as well, if Man City are willing to consider the idea of pushing him into it in some way.
Absolutely. And as much as you don't want to leave a treble winning team, a title winning team, game time is important to players because he won't be going to the Euros next summer if he's sitting on that bench at City all year. I just can't imagine a world where that takes place. So that can happen. And even Man United. Now, I don't think, and I've said this, and I don't believe we're going to get him over those two teams. I think with the financial issues we've got because of the takeover and the fact it's Arsenal and City that are both ahead of us, I don't see it. But even with us,
Yeah.
and the West Ham sources spoke yesterday, money plus McTominay and Maguire is something that may be more appealing to West Ham because it's players they actually want, players they would like to sign, and it stops them from having to go into the market for 2, 3, 4 weeks and be. Well, if they get £100 million cash, everybody's going to up their prices for players they want. It can be a better alternative. So Arsenal have got to think creatively now. They've got to get this deal done because they're at risk of being hijacked and losing their number one target. And with fans not being happy about Kai Havertz, for me, it changes the whole complexity of Arsenal summer, if you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I see someone in the comments just said, you're talking like he's a Man City player already. I really definitely don't mean to come across that, because Arsenal definitely still have one more opportunity here, and they need to move fast on it, and they need to get it right, and they can still get this deal done. Let's not forget Declan Rice does want to join Arsenal and has been in his head pretty much an Arsenal player coming into this summer. So like, we have to remember that is the situation. A lot of that team would be built around him in the coming years, and yeah, there's all those sorts of factors. So absolutely, I'm not discarding Arsenal at all. It is also interesting that like the first Declan Rice bid was made by Arsenal, and within like a couple of hours, Man City were linked to that time. This time it happened again. Man United was suddenly thrown into it within hours of the second bid being made for Declan Rice. Of course, West Ham want an auction here. Like, there's no doubt that they're trying to create something somehow. But there is also basis to it. Like, there is foundations to the fact that Man City, like Declan Rice, they've never been really sure whether that was a path they could and would go down in this transfer window. Same with Man United. Man United's disadvantage is that they don't have enough cash available to make all of the transactions that they need this summer.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
needed the takeover to go through at the start of the summer, and it's still dragging on at this rate. I'm not convinced by the end of the transfer window the takeover is going to be done. So we'll get to that later on. But yeah, for Declan Rice, it's going to come down to who makes the best offer. But Arsenal do have the opportunity still to get that offer in. Probably today is now going to be more important than ever before to try and make news and make some headway on it.
In terms of the update on City, I'm just going to try and type this in because I want to make sure there's people are putting it into the comment section here, but I'll put it up on the screen so you can see.
Yeah.
According to Damasio, Man City want to offer 75 million in 2 installments plus 15 million in add-ons, which is thought to be a realistic achievement. So that takes it to 90 million. But just looks
That's
like
the same as what Arsenal just offered.
yeah, I suppose maybe they
Yeah,
feel the structure, maybe.
yeah, literally only the structure is different there. And maybe that swings it, but yeah, I mean they want the payments within 2 years of this full amount, so that kind of works, but it's still not 100 million, and that's supposed to be the minimum amount. Like I was saying, maybe it means that even if they get encouragement that Calvin Phillips or another comes in the opposite direction at some point this summer, maybe that's a caveat of it, but that
Yeah,
amount is going to be 90 million. And what Arsenal will do with their next bid is get up towards 100 million. So Arsenal's next bid will be more than that. It's just going to be what is the structuring of it, and then you have to figure out what West Ham would prefer. Like Arsenal have to change the way that they're doing it. They can't be doing it over 5 years or whatever. So they need to go away and look at that. And it's expected like pretty soon that Arsenal are going to do this. I'm just checking my phone to make sure no one's texting me to let me know that is happening right now. But no, that was annoying. I thought that was going to be the same guy.
waiting for that.
Yeah.
Waiting for that Dean bomb. Do you know what's interesting? Again, this does though. This legitimately gives our if this news is true from DiMarzio, and we know DiMarzio is very respectable. Very respectable, very well well-renowned guy in the industry. So you take it with, and you don't have to say it's 100% true, but there's obviously an air of truth to it, or credibility to it is what I'm looking for. But this gives Arsenal that opening. It gives Arsenal that opportunity. It's that window. It's that window to say, right, well, let's bid the 100 million. Let's get it done. It's not as though City have come straight out and gone, there's 100 million, there's 105 million, there's 80 million plus Calvin Phillips. They've offered the same as you in a better package. Go and better their offer, get it agreed, and get it over the line. Get that medical, wherever Declan Rice is, whatever yacht he's on, send a team of doctors to him now. Get the medical done. It's you've got to do it. You've got to do it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Arsenal are further down the line here, so they're still at an advantage. The only disadvantage they've got is they've been knocked back twice and they don't want to get burned for a third time. So that's going to be key. But Arsenal's strategy for this summer, I've been really impressed by, to be honest. And I was looking at it today thinking, look, if they get Timber, Rice, Havertz, and then go and get one or two on top of that, like what a way to improve on the push that you had last summer. And they really do mean business. But if one of those elements falls away, Rice it might be, then you're suddenly looking for backups and you're thinking, okay, where are they turning now? Is it going to be Lavia? Is it going to be Caicedo? Do they go and get Onana from Everton? Like, where are they going to turn here? Like, what is there going to be there? Do they go to Barello? Like, what happens next? And can it live up to all the excitement and expectation that has been around Declan Rice? This obviously wouldn't be the first time that like a big name player has failed to sign for his top target club and they recover from it and you move on. But Arsenal have been burned by this pretty recently. Like even with Mudryk, like I know he hasn't turned out yet to be a superstar at Chelsea, but like everything was just built around like this guy's coming. There was almost no doubt that Mudryk was going there, and it didn't happen. They were supposed to win the Premier League, and it didn't happen. Now they're supposed to sign Declan Rice, and it's not going to happen. So I think the intent from Arsenal was great, but as a fan, I can sympathise because there must be a lot of frustration around the fact that they're so close to all of these things and they just never quite get there.
Never quite get over the line.